On this episode of Mothman of the Bible Belt, the king of West Virginia pop culture media, Rudy Panucci, discusses his legendary career, Christmas in West Virginia, and what West Virginia music acts he thinks has the potential to make it big. Panucci dishes on his Pork Chop 2 acting gig, appearing in Rwanda Walkman's Power of Love music video, and the sad state of Charleston. Also, the fringe media mogul talks about the lasting mark late activist and the defector singer Lynn Sandy left on the Charleston music scene. Coming up next.
Welcome to the Mothman in the Bible Belt podcast with your host, Buck Fantastic.
Girl Scout cookies.
2025 flew by quickly. 2026 promises to be an even more productive year for Mothman of the Bible Belt, with more entertaining interviews with Appalachian arts and entertainment figures. I had a popular retired firefighter turned daddy porn star from Cincinnati booked for the podcast, but alas, he canceled due to having big opinions on OnlyFans, in particular, safety concerns for performers. I thought having him on would be a great opportunity to discuss why OnlyFans is super relevant to porn performers at the moment. For instance, you get residuals for your work, which you don't with studio work. Fortunate for me, West Virginia pop culture guru Rudy Panucci gladly took his place. Rudy Panucci is the author of the Pop Cult blog and host of Radio Free Charleston. Panucci has been working in fringe media since the 80s, starting in public broadcasting, then moving on to publish and edit West Virginia's first nationally distributed comic book, Coda. He then found himself in radio for a while before beginning a long career as a freelance writer, ghostwriter, and marketing consultant. As a magazine writer, he contributed to Toy Trader Magazine, Non-Sport Update, and Goldmine. Panucci also wrote for the Charleston Gazette. Panucci lives in Dunbar with his wife, Mel Larch. Join me, your host, Buck Fantastic, for an all-new exciting episode of Mothman of the Bible Belt. It's a eclectic chit-chat of otherworldly origins. Rudy Panucci, welcome to the Mothman of the Bible Belt podcast. How's it going this evening?
It's going pretty good. Thanks for having me, Buck.
Thank you for coming. I was reading your latest pop cult blog on Christmas trees, and that got me thinking of the killer Christmas scenery at Hills during the 80s and 90s with all their eclectic Christmas trees and festive holiday displays. Are you and Mel into doing heavy decorating during the holidays?
Yeah, probably more than we have time to do. Usually, Melanie decorates the trees. I lug them around and put them up, but usually she's finished decorating them about the time we're ready to take them down, because they're constantly rearranging the ornaments. We did 3 trees this year.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm still wondering about the wisdom of that, but the sad thing was we didn't use maybe a third of the ornaments. I mean, we only used maybe a third of the ornaments we have.
Did y'all make any of them yourself?
Actually, no. We're bad about being consumerists, and everything we go somewhere and we get, we've been traveling a lot the last 10 years or so, and we get an ornament to be a keepsake, and then we get ornaments for the pop culture things we like, and then the next thing you know, we've got enough. If we want to do a whole tree of SpongeBob or The Walking Dead or Batman, we can do that. We haven't yet, but we keep threatening.
It's nice if you have the space to do a lot of trees. I mean, I used to do 2 Christmas trees, but right now I don't have any space, so I don't do any Christmas trees, and that's sad.
Theoretically, that would be nice. We hit the lottery, we'll probably have like a giant ballroom filled with Christmas trees all year long, so we don't have to put them up and take them down. We were going to do the one, and then we did a road trip in November, and we found this flaming red Christmas tree that we had seen a year before at a place called Rose's department store. We don't have any around here, but there's some in southern West Virginia. We found one in Erie, Pennsylvania last year, but it was fully decorated. They only had one left, and we didn't want to make them take all the ornaments off. So this year we were in Canton, Ohio, and saw one that they hadn't decorated, and we bought the display model. And so we're driving around this whole trip with an extra Christmas tree in the back of the car.
Do you think the Holly Jolly Brawly is helping to bring back some of that retro Christmas vibes that used to exist in Charleston in the 80s and 90s?
It's a really nice thing. It brings back some of it. It's not quite the same, but it's good to have new traditions. It's just a little weird to have it between the dying husk of a mall and Beerland, But it's nice to see that, and the whole Festival of Lights thing at the ballpark. It's great that kids have that. When I was a kid, a long time ago, they had window shopping and window displays at department stores in Charleston. So it doesn't quite live up to that, but it is a nice nostalgic vibe that you can, shape new memories from.
Yeah, the town center looks like a mausoleum.
I think they need to maybe change the slogan to the Charleston Town Center, come for the reverb.
Yeah.
Because is there anything left in there?
Very little. I went there. It was the end of November. I was going there to get me some new glasses. I came there nervous. I left there depressed. I found out Vision Works was closing December 5th.
Oh, geez.
And I already heard that Lens Crafters was closing at the end of December. And 2 more stores just recently stated they're going to be closing this week. It looks like it just reminds me of what happened to the Canal Mall in the early 2000s around.
I think it's actually worse than the Canal Mall. I mean, they were able to save half of that anyway.
It looks like a shitty looking strip mall now.
Yeah, but that's they have stores in those. It's like the town center. We were in Chicago, and they have an 8-story mall there called Water Tower Place.
Wow.
Except that 7 of those stories were occupied by a Macy's that went up, and then Macy's closed that location, and now that mall is headed toward town center status. It's they've got stores closed off. They've got they're putting in medical offices, which is an option that Charleston hasn't seemed to pursue yet. But it's depressing because when we went there, we started going there a decade ago, and they had a Dr. Seuss gallery and store. They had toy store. The one thing you have to understand about me in terms of shopping, if there's not a toy store or a bookstore, the mall's dead to me anyway. But it needs to have toys and books, because I don't do clothes shopping or shoe shopping, in person. I tend to own one pair of shoes at a time. Not one shoe at a time, but one pair at a time. But and lately I've been doing my clothes shopping at Temu. I'm dropping weight, and I don't want to spend a lot of money on clothes that I'm going to hopefully shrink more out of. Plus, some of the shirts are so hideous. You're like, oh my God, I wonder if I can wear that in public without getting attacked. And I'll get this. I have this hideous shirt. It looks like an AI hippie threw up on it. It's got peace signs and doves and photographic sunflowers. And I wear that thing out, and people stop me and compliment me on it. And I'm taken aback, because I'm like, you like this? What's wrong with you? But
I'm still stuck in a fashion time warp myself. So
this is a weird Christmas for me anyway, because we've had so much loss. I've had 2 of my best friends pass away in the space of a month.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's just and things. I'm like, I'll go on Facebook and reconnect with my friends and cheer myself up. And 2 dozen of my friends have had pets die in the last 2 weeks. And I'm like, yeah, happy holidays, guys. Yeah.
With Charleston getting little to no snow during December, do you think having outdoor snowmen and reindeer is passé?
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about the inflatables, I think
and the hard plastic.
I like the blow mold stuff. That actually gives me some nostalgia for growing up, because everybody had those when I was a kid. The big stupid plastic light up, nativities and snowmen and Santa and all that stuff. So I sort of get a kick out of seeing that, and it's nice to see that come back somewhat. But the inflatable stuff I just find depressing, especially when they turn them off in the daytime. It just looks like a yard full of giant condoms. But
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a little weird when you haven't had snow. Yeah, we did have snow because I had to shovel the car off when we got back from Chicago, and then
I
3
was
days
hoping
later
we'd
it was
have
all
a white
gone.
Christmas.
It's nice. It's a nice idea, especially if you don't have to drive anywhere.
Yeah.
But the more you drive, the less fond you are of white Christmases. It's
Yeah. We
I
just
mean, yeah,
haven't
we
had
went.
like enough snow to actually build a snowman in like a few years, and it's sad and it's just depressing.
Yeah, a lot of that I'm sure is climate change. So
Yeah.
I mean, I've been on both sides of the snow debate. When I was a kid, it would snow regularly, and we could build snowmen. And then the year I learned to drive, we had like 3 feet of snow regularly, like more than once during the year. And so I had to learn how to dig a car out. And then, I was actually commenting about this on a Facebook thread a few days ago that the Blizzard of '78 was the first year I drove. And I just remember digging my car out and taking it to the Murphy Mart parking lot in Dunbar, and there's nobody else there, and just doing donuts like a maniac and completely mastering how to drive in the snow. So after that, I could drive in the snow like no problem because I just, basically drove around in that until I bored myself.
So what Christmas rituals have you like carried down from your family?
Oh, good Lord. Well, I think the fun thing, I've got a brother and two sisters. We're all still very close, but I think the big thing for us was breaking the rituals we had to do as kids
Hmm.
because we had to every Christmas Eve go to my Aunt Stella and Uncle Gene's house for his birthday party.
Wow.
And we came to refer to that as the family trauma
Was he drunk?
because, oh, I think I don't drink to this day because there was so much alcohol involved. And it was a huge party. I mean, sometimes they would get Lowry's to cater it. It's like, okay, who's going to get drunk and accidentally set fire to the basement this year? Or, who's going to have a heart attack? Whose house is going to burn down while they're at the party? And the rest of it, at its best, the party was like an Edward Albee play without the funny parts. So, yeah, there was drinking and drama, but we did it because our parents were like, you got to go over, uh, you know, and eventually I ended up as Gene's caregiver for a few years, which was like an extended family trauma. But we we sort of made a pact, said, okay, when they're gone, we're not doing this anymore. We will occasionally get together, one, two, three, or four of us. Well, not just one of us. I guess we're always together as one of us. But two, three, or four of us will get together sometimes on Christmas Day and just have Italian food and hang out. But we don't do anything ritualistic like that.
No ham, turkey, or Christmas songs?
I have always hated ham. In 1997, my mother had a stroke, and we brought her home. I was her caregiver for 8 years, and I had to do all the cooking for the holiday dinners and things. And I learned to cook a turkey for Thanksgiving, a damn good one too. And I made the decision then. I was like, we're so sick of turkey by the time we get to Christmas. I started cooking Italian food. I started making pizza and lasagna and spaghetti. And, we're an Italian family. So everybody loved that more than the turkey and ham and stuff. Yeah, I can't even stand the smell of ham. I've always hated ham. And now I don't even eat red meat now. I lost the taste for beef earlier this year. I'm like, good Lord,
Did you get bit by one of those meat-hating ticks?
no, I don't know exactly what happened. I was just like around May or June, of this year. I've never been a pork eater. I could only eat sausage if it's like heavily spiced, like stage sausage or something. I can't stand bacon. I can't stand the smell of bacon. And I don't like to share my reasons for not liking foods because it's somebody's favorite food and they hear my reason, it might turn them against it. I don't want to take that joy away from anybody. But earlier this year, I was just like, beef does not appeal to me anymore. And so I eat chicken and fish, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I am tofu curious, but I haven't actually tried cooking much with it.
I tried, but it tastes. I mean, I kind of like the fake meat tofu that you can incorporate into spaghetti and lasagna, but
Mhm.
you know, it's an
That's
acquired
what
taste. You have to learn to like it, I guess.
I'm curious about it because I will I like Morningstar Farms vegetarian sausage, and their meat patties aren't bad.
Your
Hmm.
pop cult blog started with Charleston Gazette's Gaz blogs in 2005. HD
Right.
Media axed it and their other blogs, including Ken Ward Jr.'s Coal Tattoo in 2020. Did you get any notice about that?
Actually, I didn't get axed. I axed them. I
You did?
yeah. For I made the decision that I was really getting distressed by the direction HD Media was going in, and where I was proud to be associated with the Gazette when I started, it became an embarrassment. And then, if I would have a technical issue, the pop cult was so unimportant in the hierarchy of HD Media that it would take like a month to get a technical issue resolved. So I just basically ported the blog over to a new location, and I continued to update both blogs for 2 years. And then I just stopped updating that one. And then it was, I think, in the middle of 2024, they finally realized that they were still running it or still hosting it, and they pulled the plug on their version of Pop Cult. Because it's not like, they stopped paying me in 2008, and they only paid like $50 a month for the bloggers, which was,
Jesus Christ.
yeah, that it was nothing. I mean, they had Brooke Brown doing the food blog, and this like his fee for doing the blog wouldn't pay for one meal out each month. Everybody dropped out eventually. I think the last two standing were me and Wine Boy. And the funny thing is, since I've been out from under the Gazette or the HD Media aegis, my readership has just gone crazy, especially this year. We've had over 1 million unique visitors this year.
That's awesome.
And I know, I'm like, good Lord, if I could ever get off my ass and monetize this thing, it might be worthwhile. I've never seen pop cult as a money maker. It's been a really nice, it's a nice resume piece because people see pop cult, they know the brand, and they read about it, and they hire me to do other things. So
Do you think you starring in that Rewind the Walkman Power of Love music video helped?
I don't know. It was fun. I'd love to do more stuff like that, but I had good co-stars. It was,
Yeah. That was fun.
it was a tremendous amount of fun, and especially with losing a couple of friends in the last 2 weeks, we're trying to get out more. I used to go out 3 or 4 nights a week in Charleston and shoot bands for the video version of Radio Free Charleston and support the arts and everything. And then before the pandemic hit, I was diagnosed with myasthenia gravis, and I just said, okay, that's why I feel like crap all the time. I'm going to spend more time at home resting. The irony is that when I was diagnosed with myasthenia gravis, I had been having symptoms for 11 years.
Wow.
So the entire time I was producing Radio Free Charleston as a video show, sometimes on a weekly basis or more, I had a chronic autoimmune disease. But there were times when I was doing Radio Free Charleston as a video show on a regular basis where I had no use of my hands. I couldn't open a water bottle. I had to carry a giant pair of pliers to shift my car because my hand was too weak. And I still managed to crank out, almost 300 episodes of the show in the space of just under a decade. When what happened was I got married to Melanie, my wife, Melanie Larch, prominent local stage performer and singer and entertainer, and my co-writer for Animated Discussions. We'd been together for 22 years, and I finally got her to say, "Hey, let's go get married." And I got on her insurance, and I started going to the doctor. And this is 2014, 2015. Start getting my help together and everything. Then 2016, I was diagnosed with myasthenia gravis, which was fantastic news because I thought I had ALS. So when my neurologist tells me, well, actually, my eye doctor first told me, he said, I think you have myasthenia gravis. And he said, when are you seeing a neurologist? I said, tomorrow. He's like, I'm writing him a note. So he checked me out. I had myasthenia gravis, started me on a pill. And I wrote about this in the blog at the time. They said, don't expect any immediate results. So, and also they said this pill will wreck your stomach. So I took the pill, went to sleep for an hour, got up, no stomach problems whatsoever. And for the first time in probably 5 years, I could raise my middle finger independently of my other fingers.
That's awesome.
I could flip people off for the first time in ages. And I wanted to run around and show everybody, but nobody reacted positively to it.
What a great use of that finger.
Oh, it was wonderful. It was a spectacular feeling. Now, the bad part was Mestinon is the medicine they put you on that makes the symptoms go away quickly. It basically just amplifies your nerve signals so that they can get through the autoimmune issues that keep them from transmitting. But the long-term treatment is an immune suppressor. And the first line of defense in that is prednisone.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I had dropped 75 pounds in like 6 months because I'm like, I'm going to get healthy. I'm newly married. I'm happy. I'm going to get off the caregiver weight that I've been carrying around for too long. On prednisone, you gain weight and you're irritable. And I was on it for 1.5 years. So I gained back virtually all the weight that I'd lost. And I was pretty much an asshole for 1.5 years. So they switched me to a different medicine, and it's been smooth sailing ever since.
So
But,
what do you think about the current leadership over at the Gazette? Do you think things are improving over there from what you've heard, or do you think things are continuing on their downhill slide?
I honestly haven't looked.
They only got
For
5
so long.
journalists now.
Say what?
There's only like 5 journalists. I think Bill Lynch writes occasionally, but for the most part, there's just like 5 journalists writing.
I had subscribed to the paper to support local media and to support the local scene, which is my motto. But there was something they did that just disgusted me to the point where I stopped. Oh, it was when they fired the reporters for protesting one of their endorsements. I quit paying. I said, okay, I'm not going to pay for this anymore. And then
Oh, when Doug Scaff was slobbering over Don Blankenship?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was a turning point. And I was like, okay, I called him up. I said, I'm not paying anymore. I discontinued it. And I still got it. My login still worked for like 3.5 years. So the only thing I would read there would be Phil Kabler's column and Bill's stuff when he would do like the once a month thing. But yeah, it's not a thing to me anymore. It's the Gazette that I was proud to work for is gone. If we could harness the energy of Ned Chilton spinning in his grave, we wouldn't need coal anymore. But I was not a member of the Doug Scaff fan club.
I met him in 2000. I met him in 2010, 2011 at the state capitol. I was a volunteer lobbyist with Sludge Safety Project. He told me and Stephanie Tyree that coal employed over 100,000 people, which was a lie. We were there to talk about a potential ban on underground coal slurry injection, since it's a problem in the southern coal fields. Yet the DEP and the EPA, they're not really kicking up their feet to move to get rid of it, which is why we were there. And he wasn't very receptive. He was more interested in the industry than he was about people having their water contaminated with coal slurry. And that's forever.
It seemed like everything that he got involved with, he was on the wrong side of. He helped drive Manamill out of their location because he didn't want his kids going to school across the street to see homeless people. He helped ruin the Gazette. When he had the run-in with the snakes, I had not seen such an outpouring of schadenfreude in my life. I mean, every journalist I know on Twitter was cracking jokes that you would not expect.
Doug Scaff was a goddamn phony. There was nothing real about him.
Yeah. So I had him sort of in mind. I wrote a piece over the summer about I don't like to write obituaries because if it's somebody I like, that means somebody I like has died. If it's somebody I didn't care for, then I don't want to intrude on the grief of the people who cared for him, and I also don't want to waste my time writing about them. And if it's somebody I don't know anything about, then I have no business writing about them. And I didn't name names, and I had probably 3 or 4 people email me privately and say, "Was that about Doug Scaff?" I'm like, "No, I'm not even thinking about Doug Scaff." But
I wrote an obituary
yeah,
for him. I roasted his ass, and I have no regrets
mhm.
about it. I can't
Yeah,
believe
yeah.
so many people were slobbering over him and acting like he was some sort of goddamn patron saint. I mean, do you know this?
Yeah.
Do you? That's how I felt, you know?
Hmm. Well, I mean, it's like, oh, he rescued Fazios. I'm like, Fazios was dead to me years ago. But it's one of those things. It's like I have friends who were really upset when he died, and that's for them to do. You know, like I say, I've lost 2 close friends in the last month, and I would hate to see somebody trashing either one of them.
Yeah, many Americans are more interested in following the Kardashian family's pursuits and reposting foul memes of a holy roller comparing her daughter's vagina to Taylor Swift's vagina using ham sandwiches than paying attention to what's going on in their own backyards. Do you think it's healthy for our country to be as consumed with pop culture as they are, or is it a good thing, or do you think people should be more focused on, what's going on in their backyards, like poverty, homelessness,
Well,
substance use?
obviously, everybody should be more aware and educated and media literate. The world would be a better place if more people gave a shit about important stuff. Fewer people would read my blog in that case, but yeah, it's it's distressing. It's, like I said, I'm 63 years old, and I've watched a lot of weird societal changes, and history that you didn't think would repeat has repeated. You know, over.
Countless
I mean,
times.
yeah, I mean, I remember, you know, as a teenager thinking, well, nobody will ever be a worse president than Richard Nixon. And then in my 20s, well, nobody will ever be a worse president than Ronald Reagan. And then nobody will ever be a worse president than George Bush. And I'm not going to say that again because I don't want fate to say, "Here, hold my beer." You know, I don't want to. I don't want to see how much worse it can get. I don't want to look back at Idiocracy the way that I look back at Network now, and then
Mhm.
think, "Oh, that's quaint."
How would you
um,
describe your Radio Free Charleston show to people who've never tuned into it before?
oh, it's free format radio like we used to have in the 1970s, with a healthy mix of local and independent music, but the freedom that I can play anything I want. I program it. It's my show. It's like you're riding in the car with me, and I've got control of the CD player.
How did you initially disseminate it?
Originally, Radio Free Charleston was broadcast on commercial radio at 96.1 FM, 1989 and 1990. We came on at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I had 10,000 listeners at one point at 2 o'clock in the morning from 2 to 6 a.m., which
Wow.
was more than our morning show got. And then I started getting attention. Michael Lipton wrote a profile of me in the paper, which was very important to my life because my wife read that. My now wife read that and decided she wanted to meet me. Being successful and getting attention meant that office politics would eventually kill the show. So by spring of, I think it was May of 1990, I was out of the station. The worst person in the world was put in charge of running the station because we had absentee owners, and he was bound and determined. We had, like, at the peak, like in early 1990, we had 17 exclusive advertisers to our show who were paying the top ad rate to advertise, and he ran off every one of them. And the problem was because I had some local notoriety and proved that I could be successful programming a show, it was impossible to get hired locally. I was told point blank more than once, "I'd love to hire you, but if I do, you'll have my job in 6 months." So it took, a long time. I had to do other things. I had made content. At one point, I was writing political speeches because when I was working at the radio station, we would produce the ads for the local politicians, and I was the only person producing them who would take the time to correct the grammar in them. They hired me to write speeches. They were like, "Hey, you fix these pretty good." So that was actually a decent way to make money until my parents got sicker. I couldn't go on the road and stand backstage while they gave the speeches or anything. I just sort of fell out of that. But from that, I went into market research, and yeah, I made a decent living and was able to work as a caregiver for my mother after she suffered a stroke. But it was, I kept trying to bring the show back, but nobody locally would have it because they were afraid of it. I consulted with radio stations in other cities to try to copy the format, and they were successful for a while at other cities. But then in 2006, I'm still taking care of my mother, and my friend Brian Young, who is one of my best friends, who I just lost a few days ago, calls me up and says, "I've got a studio, and I can shoot video and produce audio, and I want you to bring back Radio Free Charleston as a video show." And this is after, just a few months after I'd launched PopCulture, get the name of my blog right there. But we, I started meeting with him. My mom passed away in April of that year, so that put the show behind schedule for a couple of months. We got back together. The first episode of the show, we shot it. We had Brian's band at the time, Whistle Punk, which was Spencer Elliott, Dan Jordan, and Brian. And we had two of the No Pants Players on the first episode of Radio Free Charleston's video show, and made it part of the PopCult blog. And what was funny was the Gazette tried to imitate the show with other people, and they could never quite get it because they didn't have the advantage of having free use of a studio, had video facilities and everything. People don't realize how revolutionary video was just 20 years ago. Now everybody can shoot, feature films on their phones. But back then, having a video camera was like, license to kill. But we brought back Radio Free Charleston as exclusively local music with comedy. And my brother is an animator and had like a stash of really bizarre animated shorts that we could stick in. And we called it Mind Hurting Weirdness. I would do the host segments myself. People didn't realize it, but I was actually being as unprofessional an announcer as possible because I do professional announcing, and I just want to be myself. I want to stammer and stutter and just be stiff if that's what the situation calls for. And the show caught on. You can still see all but 3 episodes on YouTube. I've got 3 episodes that are missing in action. I'm trying to recover them and restore them and get them re-uploaded, but I'm too lazy to dig into my pile of DVDs to find them. Then in 2014, Voices of Appalachia started up as an internet radio station, and I started doing Radio Free Charleston as a radio show again, exclusively completely local for them, and eventually I ended up taking over the station and changing the name to The Air because I always thought that was a cool name for a radio station. You're on the air,
I spoke with Jay Lukens of Mother Nang last year, and he showed me a video you shot of his band back in the early 90s when Spencer Elliott still sang regularly and took his shirt off. This was on your Radio Free Charleston YouTube video channel. What do you remember about those days in the 90s and the music scene?
Oh, God. Those were the days right after Radio Free Charleston ended. And at that point, I got involved with John Kessler, who was in the Mountain Stage Band. At the time, he was married to Denny Bonet. He was starting to start a radio or a record label. And he put out this thing called the New Music Feast. It was a sampler CD with 2 songs each from 4 acts. And 2 of those songs were by Mother Nang, 2 were by Strawfish, 2 were by Crazy Jane with Karen Allen, and 2 were by Todd Burge. And I did the publicity for those guys and tried to get the word out for that.
I think I have that CD.
Say what?
That's a compilation CD, right?
Right, right.
I found that at Budget a few years ago.
Yeah, that's yeah. And Kessler was a great producer and everything, and it just that was when Mother Nang went to playing CBGBs around that time. Because I'd been friends with these guys all from the Charleston Playhouse days. Charleston Playhouse and Radio Free Charleston were very closely linked. It was Johnny Rock from Go Van Go called me one night and got me to come out to the Charleston Playhouse, and I hadn't been in a bar for like 5 years. And I go, sort of dreading the experience. I walked in and just fell in love. I was like, okay, I'm home. I'm in my people. I found my tribe. I'm with my people. And that was the night I met Brian Young. That was the night I met Steve Beckner and Mark Beckner and Tim Rock. Eventually, I met Spencer Elliott and Sean Richardson. And Spencer had a band called Some Forgotten Color. Brian Young was in a band called Three Bodies with Chris Cormany and Brian Lucas. And I got to meet Brian Diller, who's been a friend for 36 years. And it was just getting tapped into the whole local music scene all at once. And I have lasting friendships that still persevere to this day from then. Melanie and I met at a Stark Raven CD release party in 1990. It was just, like I say, it was so cool. And Mother Nang was like after the end of Radio Free Charleston. Three Bodies broke up, and funny thing about Three Bodies is they recorded 4 demos that I co-produced with Spencer Elliott. We recorded at the studio above Gorby's that used to be there, the Pat Arnold studio. And I had a feeling then that Spencer wanted to work with Brian on a regular basis. So they eventually hooked up with Darren and Jay, and it was just really, it was still a vital scene. And then I sort of stepped back when I became a caregiver and got back into it, maybe 10 years after that. Charleston has a surprisingly vital music scene, considering how we have cycles of depression and bars closing and things and venues shutting down. We've managed to persevere.
With the Coal Association having a TV show on the West Virginia Library Television Network, have you ever thought about moving Radio Free Charleston over yonder?
I've thought about it, but I have a level of freedom now that I don't really want to give up, because like the video program itself, I do it basically once a year now, although it's going to change next year. And it seems like the last few years, I get to December, I'm like, well, crap, I've got to do a show before the end of the year. I have stuff in the vault to use, but the fates have stepped in and dictated that the show I'll be recording probably tomorrow night, my host segments for, is a memorial to Lee Hara, who died Thanksgiving night. And Lee was a singer with several bands. He's also an artist, a toy customizer, but he was also my production assistant on the show. He ran camera on a lot of segments, and he's on camera in a bunch of segments. And we're going to do just the best of for him. And then 2 weeks after that, we're going to do the same thing with Brian. So it'll be the first time turning around 2 episodes of the show that close to each other in probably 11 years.
You got a lot of music and video and stuff from the past.
Oh yeah, I have massive archives. I still have stuff I haven't used yet. I've got, I can go back 12 years and find music that songs I've never bothered to even edit, because we would shoot 2 or 3 cameras. And I've got raw footage going back way, I have a lot of really cool stuff. I have Sierra Farrell performing with 600 Pounds of Sin. I have Tyler Childers recorded at a bowling alley in Dunbar. Lee and I are comic relief in a horror movie. We're in Eamon Hardiman's
Pork Chop 2.
Pork Chops 2, yeah. And basically I had to go, we shot the death scene first, where we drove to White Sulphur Springs in the middle of the night, like 2:00 in the morning, and so they could shoot us hanging from trees by our intestines. Very classy movie. And I forget, I'm like, I wonder if he's ever going to do anything with that. And finally I get a call like in September. That was like in April or May. I get a call in September. It's like, hey, can you meet us up at Cootson Park and bring Lee and wear the same stuff you wore that night? And so I basically ad-libbed this entire speech where I'm playing an ignorant redneck who thinks he's a wise man talking to his sidekick, and I'm drinking hot 7-Up out of a beer bottle. Yeah, I ad-libbed this entire speech, and then he's like, "Okay, now we need to do it from another angle." I had to remember everything I said, but we're gonna try. I'm gonna try to see if I can get that scene in there. I'm sure Eamon won't mind. I was gonna drop him a message, but
Were you shocked that Pork Chop 2 is more popular on IMDb than the first Pork Chop movie?
oh, that's actually news to me. I hadn't been keeping track.
No, I was
Uh,
looking at it. I think it's 3.8, the original Pork Chop, and yours is like 5.2 or 5.3.
that might be because Lee's in it. We had a lot of friends, but you know, as an actor, I'm proud of that. But as someone who's listed as the executive producer of the first Pork Chop, it's a little disappointing. But what's funny about that? Years ago, when I first got Roku, there was a channel called Bizarre TV. It was run by a lady named Rhonda Baffs, and she would just show public domain horror movies and stuff. And she started a secret private channel called Bizarre TV Underground, where she would show movies she didn't have the rights to, with asking permission. You know, very gray area, but
Big
it
no-no.
was it was a closed circle of friends. She's like, I feel like I'm just sharing my DVD collection with my friends. That's So one night she announced she's going to show Pork Chop, and I'm like, you know what? I haven't seen this outside of a noisy bar. So I sit down to watch it, and like a minute in, my name comes up as an executive producer. I totally forgot that. I think I gave Eamon $50. So I'm like, oh shit, yeah. And I sent her a message. Hey, I'm an executive producer, and she got real apologetic. I said, I'm not gonna tell anybody. Don't worry about it. But those are back in the outlaw days of Roku.
What did you think about working with Eamon Harmon on the Pork Chop movies?
Oh, it was fun guerrilla filmmaking. I enjoyed it. It wasn't any pressure, no stress. Uh, Definitely less stressful than trying to make my own movie without a script first. I like this whole ethos people have. Let's just go do this.
Carrie Ellis is coming to the Clay Center next year on June the 13th to screen The Princess Bride. Tickets are $46. The maximum tickets in the orchestra pit, $193. Do you think Carrie Elwes is worth that?
Not alone, but in the context of the fans of the movie, and it's suddenly become more marketable, unfortunately.
You figured they'd bring Chris Sarandon too because he's from Beckley, and he's still alive and kicking. He's in New York, I believe.
Yeah, I think that it's like some sort of package deal where they're trying to do where they brought in, was it Rocky Horror they brought in with
Barry Bostwick.
Barry Bostwick, yeah, a couple of years ago, and I think it's a popular thing, but it seems to be a bit of a let's see who we can put in our auditorium fad going on. It might be a little bit of an imitation of what they're doing down at the Foundry in Huntington, but they're going out and getting a Brad Dourif. So it would be nice to see them do that with it. I would love to see them bring in Anne and do a screening of Making Mr. Right, and have her dish about it.
I believe they did that out west with Susan Seidelman.
Yeah,
I think it was in California or New York. I remember Ann Magnuson posted a few months ago or so about that.
Yeah, when they did the Blu-ray release. Yeah, actually, I would love to see her come in and talk about Cabin Boy, but that's just me. Yeah,
Ann's doing the Love Show out in California, and I wish she'd bring that back because she put out that great record on Geffen Records. I think it was 95, and it'd be great for her to bring that show to Charleston. I mean, I'm sure a nonprofit or something would love to host her, and it'd be a great fundraiser.
We'd be
Because
first in line to buy tickets for that. That would be spectacular. I would love to see that. But I think she's working on her album back here. She might want to premiere that album locally first.
I want to talk about late singer and activist Lynn Sandy from the Defectors.
We were trying to get her back in the studio. I'm longtime friends with the Defectors, Sham Voodoo, John Eastep, and he had been trying for years to get her back in the studio to record some things.
What do you think Lynn brought to the music scene in Charleston?
Oh, her energy and her vitality, and she was tuned into new waves. She started out as a folk musician, but she brought the new wave energy with the Defectors, and that was something that we did not have. The punk bands in town at the time couldn't play their instruments. I know because I was in one. The Defectors just brought a level of professionalism and what was then cutting edge new wave music. To the point where people are still talking about their shows, 40, 45 years later.
Do you think if Lynn kept at it, she could have left the state and become a big name like Ann Magnuson, who's also a friend of hers?
It's possible. That's the hard thing. That's the one thing, since I've been doing, back to the broadcast days of Radio Free Charleston, I would see talent come up and say, okay, that person's got enough talent to make it big. And then you realize what a crapshoot it is, because Brian Diller was the king of Charleston, and he went to Nashville, and he still was very successful, but he was the smaller fish in the larger pond. You have the Beckner brothers, Stephen and Mark, who are some of the best songwriters the state's ever produced. And again, they go to Nashville, and they end up coming back home. I would not have been at all surprised to see them make it huge. Then you get someone like Steve Burgess, who was in Brian Diller's backup band, and I think he was even in the Defectors briefly because they went through bass players on a regular basis. But he makes it big with the Screaming Cheetah Willies. Gets national airplay and gets to tour the world. It's just a weird dichotomy. You never know what's going to happen. You never know who's actually going to win the fame lottery.
Are there any music acts in West Virginia currently that you think are on the verge of global stardom?
There are several who are good enough, but I don't know if the music industry today would allow it. Emily Adele and the Hot Mess, they're an incredible band, original music, dynamic performances. The Settlement, neo-prog jam band, sound fantastic. I can see them selling out arenas all over the world. Sierra Farrell, playing all over the world now, literally. I don't want to leave anybody out. There are so many promising musicians in town.
Hello, June.
Oh God, yes. Hello, June's fantastic. Lynn actually turned me on to them. She was a huge fan of Sarah. And
is it difficult for you to pick and choose what music you use on Radio Free Charleston?
No.
I mean, when it comes to all the talent that all the music that people send your way from all the talent here.
It's not difficult. I really genuinely like everything I play. Very rarely do I just reject something outright. Sometimes it's weird. I have no problem because I don't have any regulations, broadcast standards or anything. I can, if somebody sends me a song that's got 20 F-bombs in it, if it's a good song, I'm going to play it. I don't like other words. If I get a rap tune that has the N-word in it, I'm very uncomfortable playing that. If I get a song that uses the R word, I'm very uncomfortable playing that. I don't like to play music that includes words that I don't use in my everyday life.
What about a rapper rapping about their clit?
Depends on how good the music is.
I was at WVSU's EDC a few years ago, and there was this male rapper, biological male rapper, rapping about someone licking his clit. And me and the person who was over there at the time, we were both like, oh my God.
It sounds almost entertaining enough to put on.
It was. I mean, she obviously she had to say something, and I get that because there are other people that It was loud and you could hear it. It resonated through the whole place, but it was funny as hell because it was coming from a young, I think he was in his late teens, early 20s, but
Did
he wanted to be a
understand what he
rapper.
was talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, because it would be funnier if he didn't. But
So you were a comic
okay.
book publisher?
Yes. Back in the 1980s, everybody and their brother was doing a black and white comic book. So my brother and I did a black and white comic book called Coda, and it was published out of South Charleston. We had our own publishing company. My uncle financed it. Frank wrote and drew the lead story. I wrote and drew the backup story, and I took care of the editing and the grunt work and everything of getting it printed. And we lasted 4 issues. And Frank did not like doing publicity or going anywhere. So it was up to me to publicize the book. That's why I wound up going to the Chicago Comic Con, because there was crazy money going around in comic books those days. One of the fellows we knew from the business bought a private jet and flew to Chicago from North Carolina and picked me up. So we go to the Chicago Comic Con, and I'm like hanging around with all these people. And I had just gotten divorced and was like just glued to the wall until an artist named Mitch O'Connell, who is a very prominent guy now, peeled me off the wall as just the nicest guy in the world, introduced me to everybody. And I actually was very social for the first time, in quite some time. And then the next year, in 1987, we had just published our last issue, and my friend with the private jet picks me up again and fly there. And I don't really have anything to promote. I'm just there. And I see this old guy just wandering around looking out of place. And I'm like, last year, Mitch was great to me and sort of brought me out of my shell. I'll go to this guy and see what his deal is and start talking to him. And it was Del Close, the master improv teacher who trained John Belushi and John Candy. And,
wow.
And he was writing a comic book for DC, and he was there because he felt like he had to be there. And I ended up getting stuck in Chicago for a week because my friend was doing business meetings. And so Del took me under his wing, and he was doing seminars for the IO Olympics, the Improv Olympics, which he could not call the Improv Olympics because the Olympic Committee was threatening to sue him. And so I got about a week of improv training just hanging out with Del Close. I didn't really tell anybody about that for a while.
Was your comic distributed nationally?
Oh yeah. We were in all the major comic book stores and distributors. It's weird because a couple of years ago on Twitter, Phil Hester, who is a prominent artist and writer, posted the cover of the first issue of our book. I said, I wonder whatever happened to these guys. So I got to fill him in on that. And we had print run around 10,000 copies, which was healthy. But then the market collapsed, and like the last issue, we ended up pulping a lot of those because nobody would buy them. So I was a comic book publisher, and then small period of depression after that. Didn't do much of anything but sort mail, and then got hired to work in radio, and the rest is history. When the movie Coda won the Oscar, I told everybody that it was adapted from our comic book, but they changed everything.
Rudy, I have 5 questions now.
All right.
Okay. Ringling Brothers Circus without animals or Dunbo's Circus?
Oh, probably Ringling Brothers without animals. I'm not a big fan of animal cruelty.
Festival or Regatta?
Festival.
He-Man or G.I. Joe?
G.I. Joe. I hate He-Man, and I'm a G.I. Joe collector. So
Online shopping or in-person shopping?
Oh, it's a mix, but probably more online these days.
Ron Hardman as the MC in Cabaret or Ron Hardman as Hedwig in Hedwig and the Angry Inch?
I'm going to go with Hedwig.
I want to thank my special guest, Rudy Panucci, for coming on Mothman in the Bible Belt to discuss his past and present media endeavors. You can find the PopCult blog at www.popcultblog.com, and Radio Free Charleston is on YouTube. For Mothman in the Bible Belt podcast outlet updates, guest bios, episode breakdowns, and links to social media, please check us out on the web at www.mothmanofthebiblebelt.com. Thanks for listening.